Right up here. It wouldn't be an event without technical issues. Thank you all for waiting. Renee, can you give me a thumbs up when you're ready? Okay. You need light up the speaker. Yeah, that's okay. Okay, perfect. Oh, Is this one on? Oh, it is. You good? All right. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Good evening. My name is Oliver Webb, and I use he, him pronouns. I'm the current board chair of Diversity Alliance of the Puget Sound, or DAPS for short. Thank you for joining. Sorry, forgot. We're going to take these off tonight when we're on stage, but we'll put them back on immediately when we get off stage for safety reasons. Thank you for joining us tonight in person, online via live stream, and at our partner event in TDOR Seattle. Tonight we gather to hold space for those we've lost this year to unimaginable violence. We're not only here to mourn, but to celebrate those lives lost too soon. We uplift our friends, family, community members, and loved ones tonight and honor their memories tonight and every night. I would now like to invite Rainbow Center board member at large, Dorian Taylor, who uses they, he pronouns to guide us through our intention and grounding with the land acknowledgement.
As we begin this gathering, I invite all present friends, family, and neighbors in Tacoma and Seattle to take a moment to center ourselves in this space, in this work we do together. We respectfully acknowledge that this event takes place on occupied Coast Salish land and that our center is located on the lands of the Puyallup tribe. We pay respect to Coast Salish elders, past and present, and extend that respect to their descendants and to all Indigenous people. To acknowledge this land is to recognize its longer history and history, including the recognition that this land was not freely ceded to the settlers who claimed it and attempted to wipe out its clusters. It is to recognize these lands and waters and their significance for the peoples who lived and continue to live in this region, whose practices and spiritualities were and are tied to the land and the water, and whose lives continue to enrich and develop in relationship to the land, waters, and other inhabitants today. Take a deep, slow, breath of gratitude for the land we occupy as we build our communities in the spirit of healing and inclusion.
Thank you, Dorian. I am beyond lucky to serve with an amazing board, without whom events like this would not be possible. Thank you to my counterpart in Seattle, Astra Pittman, who has spent countless hours with me planning and replanning for these events. Far too many sleepless nights, Zoom meetings, phone calls, emails, and hangouts that turned into shop talk. It has been an honor to have spent the last 3 out of 4 years on TDOR Seattle with you, my friend. Next, the only reason I am standing, Board Secretary Skylock. She put so much time and effort into this organization, and this month has been incredibly difficult. Thank you for always going the extra mile, sometimes literally. Thank you to our voting members, who are the heart and soul of DAPS, many of whom are split between the events tonight, volunteering in various capacities. You are the reason we do what we do. And thank you to our sponsors, Diversity Alliance of the Puget Sound, Rainbow Center, UW Tacoma Equity and Inclusion Center, PFLAG Tacoma, the Q Center at University of Washington, Human Rights Campaign Seattle, Cis Ally Trio, SeattleTransVisibility.org, and to the Washington Historical Society and the University Unitarian Church for both graciously offering us spaces for TDOR Tacoma Seattle tonight. And a special thanks to our live streamers, Renee Raketty and Greg Briggs here in Tacoma, and Nick Barnard in Seattle. And now the reason we're all here. The Transgender Day of Remembrance was first observed in 1999, organized by Gwendolyn Ann Smith to memorialize the murder of Rita Hester. This event has evolved from a web-based project to an international day of action. This event, which commemorates and memorializes the trans and gender diverse individuals who have died as a direct result of violence against trans and gender diverse individuals, has grown into an international call to action for trans rights and groups allies. This day is spent honoring those lost in trans violence, making it our best opportunity to fully contemplate how devastating those losses are. The annual event, which celebrates the lives of trans and gender diverse individuals lost, falls on November 20th each year, and seeks to combat trans violence, stigma, and erasure. The most important function of Trans Day of Remembrance is to restore dignity, to change the narrative that has been written about our loved ones after a hate crime has occurred. Here are the statistics and other data that has been compiled to share with you regarding TDOR. Since 2010, more than 328 trans and gender diverse individuals have been murdered in the United States. 2021 has already seen at least 56 trans and gender diverse individuals fatally shot or killed by other violent means in the United States. The majority of whom were Black or Latinx, transgender women. The Pacific Northwest has seen at least 5. In Washington State, at least 2. We say at least because too often those stories go unreported or misreported. As is too often the case in the reporting of anti-trans violence, many of these victims are misgendered in local police statements, in media reports, or by their own families, which can delay the awareness of deadly incidents. 2021 has already been deemed the deadliest year of trans and gender diverse violence since record-keeping began in 1999. Gathered data shows an alarming trend of gradual increase in murders of trans and gender diverse people per year between 2008 and 2021. The TDOR 2021 International Update reveals a total of 328 reported trans and gender diverse individuals murdered between October 1st, 2020 and September 30th, 2021, 18 more than in 2019. This number is 328 too many. The majority of the registered murders occurred in Brazil, 153, Mexico, 66, and the US, 56, adding up to a total of 3,300 reported cases in 75 countries and territories worldwide between January 1st, 2008 and September 30th, 2021. There are many more we will never know about because countries like Russia, Africa, Jamaica, Singapore, Vietnam, and Saudi Arabia do not report gender-based hate crime murders. Behind the statistical representation of numbers and percentages, there are real people whose lives we value and who our as societies fail to protect. Each year, Black and migrant trans women of color are disproportionately murdered and targeted by anti-trans violence. Social stigma and criminalization of sex work expose trans sex workers to abuse, exploitation, and violence. At the same time, those groups are repeatedly silenced and underrepresented within our communities and societies. These victims, like all of us, are loving partners, parents, family members, friends, and community members. They worked, went to school, and attended houses of worship. They were real people, people who died, who did not deserve to have their lives taken from them. These individuals were more than names on a list or political pawns. Today and every day we honor them. These victims were killed by acquaintances, partners, or strangers, some of whom have been arrested and charged, while others have yet to be identified. Some of these cases involve clear anti-transgender bias. In others, the victim's transgender status may have put them at risk in other ways, such as forcing them into unemployment, poverty, houselessness, and or survival sex work. While the details of these cases differ, it's clear that fatal violence disproportionately affects transgender women of color, particularly Black transgender women, and the intersections of racism, sexism, homophobia, biphobia, transphobia, and unchecked access to guns conspire to deprive them of employment, housing, healthcare, and other necessities. Even in the face of this physical danger, hatred, and discrimination, transgender Americans live courageously and overcome unjust barriers in all corners of our country. But until we as a country and society address and dismantle these barriers, transgender, gender-diverse individual people will continue to face higher rates of discrimination, poverty, houselessness, and violence. While it's tempting and common to pursue largely reactive and temporary solutions, we must address the root causes of this violence to make our communities safer for everyone. It is unacceptable that transgender and gender-diverse people are killed simply for existing. It's not enough to grieve the loss of victims of anti-transgender violence. We must honor their memories with action. Although COVID-19 affects us all, social differences and inequalities are deepened by the pandemic, emphasizing gaps and lack of legislation and systematic protection of trans and gender-diverse people. The Trump administration was responsible for over 50 different policies, laws, revocations, and overturnings that directly and negatively impact the trans population, leaving them more vulnerable to systematic discrimination and abuse. Those who strongly oppose the concept of trans and gender-diverse people and decry their very existence. We are much more likely to act upon their prejudice with violence, feeling that they have been given permission to do so by those in power. A society of microaggressions and systematic barriers allows hatred to fester and ends in lives lost. That hostility towards trans and gender-diverse individuals is also connected to disproportionately high rates of suicide, houselessness, housing, food, and employment instability, medical and employment discrimination, poverty, mental health issues, and substance use disorders. I wish that it was enough to just be here, loving and supporting our trans and gender diverse siblings, but it is not. Love is nothing without actions. We, all of us, trans or not, must remember that we are still here because we as queer and allied community stood up and fought for our rights. And we did it while being united. Even though we're here tonight to honor and remember those we lost, we are also here to honor and remember our resilience as a community, to look forward together with hope and pride, and to unite as one in the healing of our collective wounds. Our community is unbreakable because we stand together and stay true to who we are, no matter what. We must keep going. For all the other days of the year, I encourage you to evaluate the ways in which you can evaluate. For the ways you can support and empower our trans community members to live out loud. To each and every one of you, my trans and gender diverse siblings here tonight, thank you for being beautifully brave and resilient. You are valid and you are loved. To my fellow trans allies, outspoken, visible trans allies are more important now than ever. If you see or hear something anti-trans, speak up and speak out. Violence is a product of fear, and fear is a product of ignorance. We allies have an obligation to educate and lead by example to erase the ignorance, one person at a time, because silence equals death. I would like to now invite Everett Jones, who uses they, them pronouns from the UW Pride Pack, to begin our speaker introductions. Hi everyone, how's my volume okay? My name is Everett Jones, I use they, them pronouns, and I just want to point out that that speech ended on the word death. And they said it like that, and I was like, I bet that's the last word that happens, and then I come up. So I'm happy to be here to share this time with you tonight. I work across the street at the University of Washington, Tacoma. I've been out there for 10 years teaching poetry writing, and I've been an out queer and trans person there this whole time, and very genuinely excited to be here. I have the great honor tonight of introducing our first speaker, Renee Rapidi, who uses she, her pronouns, and what an esteemed and accomplished person. I want to share some of what we know about Renee. Renee is an accomplished journalist with 2 decades of experience and is also well known for her interviews, breaking news coverage, and feature stories. She also thinks of herself as a decent photojournalist and videographer. I did not write decent, I'm sure that she's wonderful. She is a contributing writer for Tacoma Weekly Unite, Seattle Magazine, Seattle Gay News, Capitol Hill Seattle Blog, field producer for Malcontent News, correspondent for Converge Media. Renee appears regularly on television and radio to provide her input on the events of the moment, including the NPR station KUOW. And she has appeared alongside reporter Essex Porter of Cairo TV and senior investigative editor Jonathan Martin of the Seattle Times on the highly acclaimed program Week in Review with Bill Radke. This is all impressive, but there's more. Her best known efforts include her second interview with Dr. Anthony Fauci in March for a cover story in United Seattle Magazine. The interview later aired on the Seattle channel and has now been inducted into the City of Seattle Digital Archives. She also filed more copy and photo assignments than any other print journalist while covering the protests for racial justice in Seattle, an effort led by Ken Molesbury. The study found that the real or perceived sexual orientation of the victim was the second biggest motivator for the attacks, and led to a long-term community project to address the crisis. Renee also has a live stream, Renee Reports, where she often covers topics of concern to the LGBTQIA2+ community, particularly the violence against trans and non-binary individuals. She is also in development for an internet TV show, which is so cool, with a well-known local media production company. Finally, she's collaborated with Rolling Stone photographer Nate Gowdy on his new photo book, Insurrection, a 140-page book with over 100 black and white photos of the attack on the US Capitol on January 6th. Renee completed an interview with Nate, which will appear in that book. Renee is proudly an out trans member of the Society of Professional Journalists and the National Lesbian and Gay Journalists Association. She is a frequent guest discussing issues facing the trans community and journalism. Please, please, please help me welcome Renee Raketty as our speaker.
Hello. I love that sound. Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay, first I want to thank Diversity Alliance of Puget Sound so much for the invitation to speak here tonight, and especially Oliver Webb, board co-chair, and Astra Pittman, board member at large, who's in Seattle today, for inviting me to the Transgender Day of Remembrance. As others may have noted, Transgender Day of Remembrance began in 1998 by trans advocate Gwendolyn Ann Smith as a vigil to honor Rita Hester, a transgender woman who was killed in Massachusetts that year. The vigil started as an annual tradition. As you have heard, I write for Tacoma Weekly. I don't know where the mic, I don't know what. But we're getting feedback. Let's take them off. That's even worse. Okay, let's just go with it. As you may have heard, I write for Tacoma Weekly among many other publications. My editor, Matt Nagel, asked me to let you know he's here in spirit. The Weekly, Tacoma's only community newspaper, is very welcoming of the trans community and all people. As a gay man, he makes sure of that. He said, the publisher John and I grieve those losses too, and want everyone to know that respect and love for people of all genders is part of who we are as people and as a newspaper. We're very proud of you, are part of us too, Renee, for sure. Thank you very much, Matt. I recognize that I'm one of only a few trans journalists here in the Seattle market. And of course, there's certainly not enough of us nationwide. The truth is, if we are not telling our stories, other people are. And too often, those stories include learned bias and misinformation about our lives. While I'm just here living, being, and writing, I use whatever platform I have to examine limiting ideas of gender, sexuality, isms, phobias, and fears that separate humankind. Because I find, if I don't do it, no one will. The city of Tacoma officially acknowledged Transgender Day of Remembrance this year with a proclamation and raised the transgender flag on city property. The flag, which is composed of 5 horizontal stripes, 2 blue, 2 pink, 1 white in the middle, will fly at half-staff through the weekend. KNKX, Tacoma News Tribune, King 5, and others were there at Ben Gilbert Park near City Hall on Friday for the flag raising. Absent from the stories was the point-counterpoint nonsense about being trans. Finally, at least in urban cities, journalists are beginning to understand we deserve to be respected just as we are. On Tuesday, Mayor Victoria Woodards read a proclamation during a Tacoma City Council meeting making today, November 20th, Transgender Day of Remembrance in Tacoma. I belong to the Western Washington chapter of the Society of Professional Journalists and the National Lesbian and Gay Journalists Association. Both have made inroads in including transgender and non-binary individuals in their membership and advising journalists to use inclusive language and to accurately report on our community. Last May, the NLJJA issued a statement regarding a segment on 60 Minutes, in which they noted that the segment discussed the need for gender-affirming healthcare, as well as the recent wave of legislation intended to curb gender-affirming medical care for transgender people in 33 states, and that gender-affirming care is vital for the health and safety of transgender people. And guidance from leading medical experts and associations tells us that discussions of detransitioning must be decoupled from the bills moving through the state legislatures. A number of medical associations have released statements condemning legislation that restricts access to gender-affirming care, including the American Medical Association and the American Psychiatric Association, the NLJJA said. I'm tired of reading stories or watching news segments that include comments from non-medical and anti-LGBT organizations or individuals. The truth is, our lives should not be up for debate and our journeys should not be devalued. Those of us in the media have a great impact on the perception of the trans community. The results of these stories can make or break public perception. This in turn can affect how parents treat their children who are trans, how an administrator writes policy, or how we are treated while carrying out our activities of daily living. I've been in rooms where people bring up detransition or talk about something they heard in the media, a comment from a discredited, unlicensed counselor, for example. GLAAD, an advocacy organization seeking fair representation of the LGBTQ community, condemned this segment on 60 Minutes. They said on Twitter, tonight, 60 Minutes and Leslie Stahl aired a shameful segment fear-mongering about trans youth. Parents of trans youth could walk away with a false belief The young people are being rushed into medical transition. That is simply untrue. As the piece noted, every major medical association supports affirming age-appropriate care for trans youth, and the guidelines for that care are safe and well established. And yet the majority of the story was devoted to raising concerns about youth accessing that care. As the NLJJA further stated at the time, it is our responsibility as journalists to report stories with fairness and accuracy. NLJJA serves as a resource for journalists and newsrooms covering LGBTQ communities and issues. Our style book on LGBTQ terminology includes guidance for journalists on covering trans people and issues. Likewise, the Society of Professional Journalists has gone as far as creating a race and gender hotline of Black and LGBT journalists and educators, including experts, to take calls from the media. Although there is no guarantee that a journalist will follow the advice, they'll hang out with an enlightened grasp of the race and gender issues behind their reporting. Efforts like this are vital if we are going to have accurate representation that will properly identify that transgender victim, for example. The Human Rights Campaign, Media Matters, and Trans Journalists Association have also partnered for an FAQ for reporters writing about anti-trans violence, which is available at hrc.org. In Washington, we have become all too familiar with the crime victims of violence who are trans or non-binary. I have personally spoken to the family, friends, and loved ones of Ricky Adamaro, known to many as True Starlet. Ricky performed her drag routines many times at Olympia at Jake's, on 4th, the Urban Onion, the Eagles Club of Olympia. She also performed as True Starlet during the Capital City Pride's virtual event in June. She loved to sing karaoke and spend time with her friends. She was crowned Miss Gay Lewis County in 2008 and was once reigning Miss Gay Olympia. She was 39 years old. Hundreds gathered for vigils in Olympia and Centralia to honor the role in the community that she played and the countless ways she made a difference for LGBTQI+ individuals through her example and good works. Her friend and fellow drag performer, J.D. Simon, told me, "I want people to remember her as the glamorous woman she was, who brought joy to all of those who were around her." Anna Schlecht, Ricky's adopted gay aunt, met her when she was 8 years old, a budding drag queen, who would run to the food co-op, dig into the free box to play dress-up drag queen, and put on shows for the neighborhood. Ricky had a big heart and a giant smile. She leaves a huge hole in the heart of our community, said Anna. This beautiful soul was a victim of a brutal homicide in her home in Centralia, Washington. Police found Ricky laying on the couch with her hands in a defensive position, with both arms covering her face. She was shot 5 times in the chest, with one bullet traveling up her neck and exiting through her head. I bring up this brutal way in which she died because all too often, these facts are glossed over because it is too horrific for the mainstream consumption. But as transgender people, we are calling out, sometimes into the darkness, into that void of empty space. But please, hear our pleas. Zoey Martinez, a 24-year-old woman from Maple Valley, Washington, had been shot 5 times.
20.
That's it. Oh, 20-year-old. My apologies. Her body was found in a Seattle alleyway, dumped like trash. Again, the details of her violent death are brutal. Both victims were Latinx. We know that Black, Indigenous, people of color, trans, and non-binary femmes statistically are the most at risk of meeting a brutal end. I will let her family share her story. Sometimes our crime is simply walking down the street. And for the record, no one deserves to be murdered, regardless of the reason or their role in society. Each and every year is deadlier than the last year. According to the Diversity Alliance of Puget Sound, we have had at least 56 trans and non-binary individuals die due to violent means in the US and US territories. HRC, which has a different criteria for their list, reports 45 deaths. The truth is that the number is likely to have been many times higher if our stories were accurately reported. We gather here tonight to say one is too many. I want to take a moment to also remember the 3 other trans and non-binary individuals we have lost here in the Pacific Northwest. Ollie Taylor of Oregon, 17 years old, Jesse Hart of Oregon, 42 years old, and Joe Waker of Idaho, 26 years old. Like these victims, I don't get to take off time for being trans. And our ability to pass as male-female doesn't negate the fact that we are transgender every day of the year. Now, some of us never transition, and that's okay too. Some cannot transition due to their circumstances or concerns for their safety. They are still trans. And just because you fall somewhere in the middle of the gender spectrum from male to female, you are valid too. Now, how we express our gender is no one's business. And there should never be a time when I walk into a room and be treated less than. I should be able to turn on the TV and see positive depictions of my community, not just the plot line of a murder mystery. And for the love of God, will we hire some trans actors to play our trans lives? We are journalists, doctors, and more recently, elected officials. And I see our Laura, the Speaker of the House, thank you. A little nervous, I apologize. Let's see. We are, trans people have suffered great indignities, historically and unfortunately still to this day. Until recently, we had to choose between male and female on our driver's license or ID. Finally, we get a passport that will accurately identify us. The act of changing our name and our gender is a major and costly undertaking. Getting informed and adequate medical care remains to be a major obstacle. I myself have had to explain basic principles of hormone replacement therapy and give my medical providers a Trans 101 talk during my actual appointment. I'm proud to say my primary care provider took the initiative and attended a weekend training about the trans community. The HRC reports that this year the trans community has faced the dual threats of an unprecedented number of anti-transgender bills in state legislatures. 10 times so far have passed, 10 states have passed anti-transgender legislation, as well as a resurgence of stigmatizing and demeaning rhetoric from cultural, social, and political figures domestically and internationally. To add insult to injury, we have folks within the LGBTQI+ community who continue to demean and belittle us. No, lesbians are not flocking to become trans. They already were trans, always had been. They didn't have the language or the opportunity to be their full and true selves, perhaps. No, trans men do not threaten the prize masculinity within the gay culture. Luckily, we are seeing greater social acceptance year after year. Earlier today, I read a press release from the American Heart Association about the transgender community. One fact that they listed was heartwarming. Individuals undergoing gender-affirming hormone therapy are more physically active, possibly because they are more satisfied with their bodies. I feel so honored that I have a platform to tell our stories and profile individuals making a difference here in the Pacific Northwest. Homeless advocates, activists such as Cass Giovanni, artists such as Future Crystals and Ade Canary. I also featured gender-queer drag artist Aleksa Manila, who brings her Babylon identity, part of the trans spiritual healers in Filipino culture. These are individuals that in part, because of their status as queer and BIPOC, are devalued in our society. I love the fact that we have Transgender Awareness Week, Trans Day of Remembrance, and Trans Day of Visibility, but those efforts are not enough. We can't, from our position as a minority in America, do enough or make great social changes without our allies. While it is important that our liberation be led by us and the voices that are uplifted include ours, the only way to end the slaughter of our sisters, brothers, and a variety of other identities is through action from our allies. We cannot do it alone. Your silence is literally killing us. As they said during the AIDS activism in the early 90s, silence equals death. If there is one thing I want our allies watching to understand, it is that while we appreciate you standing with us to memorialize, honor those lost, and by doing so, raising awareness about the crisis of crimes against the trans and non-binary community, you are the change makers we seek. Use your body, voices, and resources, time or money, and use your influence in any way you can. If you're a school administrator, create gender-neutral bathrooms or changing facilities for those that desire it. If you're a doctor, make sure you educate yourself on our medical needs and hang inclusive signage in your office or clinic. If you're a politician, fight like hell to defeat the onslaught of anti-trans bills that seek to legislate us into the shadows, and use your position to ensure we have equal rights to enjoy the life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness guaranteed to us under the Declaration of Independence. The Center for Transgender Equality released their list of 52 things you can do for transgender equality on their website and created a poster. The list includes ideas for action that you can take at a local level. Some will be challenging, some will be simple. All are effective ideas and thoughts to help you get started. Some are things you can do on your own, while others are ideas for local groups to work on. NCTE said, "We hope that you will take on projects that spark your interest and meet a need in your community so we work together for equality for all people." Now, I was going to read this list, just kidding, I wasn't going to read this list. It is 52, but I want to make sure all of our allies and the trans community leave here with something to do today, because it's going to take action on all parts to address the crisis of violence against the trans and non-binary community. I like the first one, which is take a trans person to lunch. You know, let me know. My calendar has some openings. Invite your mayor or other elected official to address a trans group or town meeting. Create and publicize a calendar of local events and encourage people to attend them. Let's see. We also have support the Day of Silence, and we have the great Gay Lesbian Straight Education Network, Washington State here. Listen.wa.org, check that out. That is their project. We also have, tennis flag meeting. They're there for the children, basically if you're a parent, family friend of someone who's trans, lesbian, gay, bisexual, or transgender, questioning queer, intersex, then you can attend those meetings and get support. Collaborate with another group on a community project or a social event. Plan to come out on National Coming Out Day on October 11th. Support programs for youth. The Hour of Future. Know your rights if you're stopped by the police. This is an important one, especially if you're a trans, black, woman of color, or indigenous. Respond to alerts and other organizations, because being an ally to others ensures that they'll be an ally to you when the time comes. And I like this one. Make a New Year's resolution for transgender equality. Absolutely. The truth is, to end violence against trans and non-binary individuals will take a village. I'm sure you heard that one before. But it is true. It requires that journalists like myself work to get it right. It requires allies to use their voices, bodies, and resources. It requires all of us to take action in order to achieve change. Likewise, next year will be the deadliest, next year will be the deadliest year, and 2023 will be even deadlier. The statistics will not change until our society, its institutions, and our government all work together to address this crisis. Again, thank you, Diversity Alliance of Puget Sound, all of you in attendance, and all of you watching at home. This event is a good step toward creating a beautiful future where everyone is valued regardless of gender. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Renee. And Madam Speaker Jenkins, you snuck in. I didn't get to say hi. Thank you so much for being here. All right, next, please welcome Melanie Gladstone, who uses she, her pronouns and is the current P-Flag Tacoma Secretary, who will be introducing our next speaker.
For the past 9 years, Sephora Commorato has worked as an accomplished chef and active member of the recovery community. Long before that, she was helping to lead and empower LGBTQIA+ youth by serving as a mentor and shining example of all that was possible for trans women of color. Since the pandemic, she has not only continued to assist and uplift many young and vulnerable populations, but she has single-handedly overhauled and improved the way that people who are experiencing homelessness are cared for by serving as the executive chef and acting director of food services for local Seattle charities and homeless shelters. She has overcome poverty, adversity, racial discrimination, addiction, and homelessness to embody what is possible for all people when you stay true to your passions and dedicate yourself to living your best life in affirmation of who you are. She is supported by her family and a circle of friends that is ever widening thanks to the support that she provides to every life that she touches. Sephora Commorato.
Hello, everyone. I was looking for Oliver, who had me follow a public speaker, and I'm barely verified on Instagram, so never forgiving him for that. But he also asked me to speak. I wasn't quite sure why, but he knew he had a wild card to play, because if I didn't come, my mom would have drugged me here. So I appreciate him for inviting me. Sorry, I didn't write anything down. I'm very nervous. I don't really speak in public. I do yell at line cooks all day, so I'm gonna just kind of imagine you guys all are my line cooks. So again, when Oliver asked me to speak, I wasn't quite sure why he chose me. I don't really think I'm that important. I just happen to be a girl who happens to be Black, who also happens to be trans. But when I started thinking about those list of reasons, it was kind of crazy that the reasons that he may have picked me would be the same reasons I have experienced discrimination. It's the same experience that I've experienced my own diversity, my own hardships, and my own lack of opportunities, and just general scary ass moments. Yeah, sorry, again, I'm a chef, so I'm trying not to swear very, very much. It's Saturday night, so it's kind of indoctrinated into my DNA that I should be swearing right now. So I try to be an adult, but looking into this room, I feel surrounded by adults, and I had to stop and think for a moment that my experiences are lived and survived, and I've actually lived through them, and not every one of my brothers and sisters have had the opportunity to do that. It was just really hard to reflect and stop and think that I'm a statistic in more ways than one, in a lot of ways, that even though I'm able to pursue my passion, it's not without its difficulty. I am able to occupy spaces that I don't necessarily feel valid or honored in. It's kind of strange. I often want to just blend in with the crowd, but at the same time feel the gravity of wanting to be bold in a space, wanting to be true to myself, wanting to walk into a room and have people acknowledge that I am a beautiful Black trans woman and my opinions and emotions are valid. But when you look at the statistics lately, and you really stop to think about it, if you think about it too much, it's kind of almost hard to leave the house. In moments I'm not even realizing it, I get so overwhelmed just trying to do the day. And I get all this feedback, oh, you're so accomplished, oh, you're doing such great things, you're staying out of trouble, you're being a pillar for your community. That is fucking exhausting. It's tiring. I'm very tired. I'm so tired of looking at the news and seeing girls' faces that look far too much like mine. It's hard. But most importantly, I was panicked when he asked me because I'm like, I don't have any like pearls of wisdom or any like finality of thought. Like I'm still currently living and processing this. And most days I don't think I'm doing that good of a job. But I am showing up and I don't know if that's enough of an excuse for me to stand here. But I really do realize the privilege that I have of being able to stand here, to not be a statistic, to not be someone whose name's in the newspaper. And that's not a light feeling I have. If anything, it almost fills me with immense joy, but also immense remorse that up until recently, like my life choices earned me a spot to be not here anymore. But with my like journey with sobriety, I've learned to let go of the past, learn that all of my experiences are valid, and it's all made me the person that I am. I honor the fact that I have these experiences I've carried to help other people who may be going through the same things. And even when I'm helping them, I love moments where I can sit with someone and have them hyper aware that I don't have all the answers, but I know what you're doing, I know what's going on. I know your journey, I'm doing it with you. And in those moments where I feel so alone, it's nice to know that there are other people who have my story. There are other people who need to hear my story. There are other people who, for some reason, I am an inspiration to. But I really appreciate the space that we have, the day that we have today, the community that we have here. It's amazing to see. It almost like took my breath away to walk in here. I spent a lot of time at work, which, believe it or not, isn't very trans populated or very LGBTQ forward. So to be able to come to spaces like this where I'm surrounded by love and warmth and understanding, it means so much. It's incredible that spaces like this exist, that days like this exist, that leadership communities like this exist, a diversity alliance. That's amazing. It's all part of us making history. And I think for me, the exhaustion comes from the fact that like, I'm only 35 and I've lived, and we're living in history. We're constantly making history, and that has its own exhaustion. I swear, with the pandemic and God, you know, it's like Y2K, and now the statistics of the rate of diverse women of color and trans people dying, it's another history marker. I'm like, Jesus Christ, can we just have a day? Oh, maybe a good week? But we're pushing forward. And I honestly, I like to see movement and the fact that we are progressing, and I get to be a part of a progressive movement. I get to be a part of history that, if God willing, 40 years from now, I still am existing through, I have something to tell my children and other young trans youth. sorry, I already cried while putting on lashes, so I just refuse to cry tomorrow. No, this is a whole story over here. So I'm trying to hold it together, and if you guys are my line cooks, I would never cry in front of you, so let's speak this. But again, I'm honored to be here. I'm honored to be a Black trans woman of color who is a living testament to perseverance. You know, so many I'm gonna give you guys about myself. I'm so shitty at like talking and gassing myself up. I let my plate do the talking, but I really appreciate this moment. Thank you guys so much for listening to me. I really appreciate you being here. And thank you, most importantly, for spreading love and awareness. Thank you guys.
Thank you so much for being here. All right. I've made it okay until now, so we'll see. All right. Washington, unfortunately, has 2 names on this year's list. The first of which is 20-year-old Zoey Martinez. Tonight, we have the honor of sharing this space with Zoey's loved ones, 2 of which are here to speak tonight. It is my privilege to introduce Zoey's father, Craig Martinez, who uses he, him pronouns, and her best friend, Caitlin Toppin, who uses she, her pronouns.
Thank you, Oliver. Thank you for inviting me tonight. This gal here thinks she got a tough phone. You didn't even need paperwork. I couldn't even think that. Elizabeth, you're amazing. I mean, your qualities of everything, how you have time to live. I mean, I don't even know nothing like that. I think you can do anything in the world, president, anything. I have no qualities like that. The only qualities I have is I'm longshoreman, and it's nice to meet a longshoreman person with us tonight. And a landscaper for many years, and best qualities I have is being a father, and to my daughter and my other daughter as well, transgender woman, and I'm very proud of. That's what I have to give. I don't have all those qualities you all have, and I don't have a mind like yours. That was amazing. Oh, am I gonna follow you? Come on. Okay. Well, thank you for coming tonight. Your family, we are. But the reason we're here is the reason somber at best. Yet connected by loved ones we all lost in this family of names we know we're not. Look from side to side at you right now. These are your people. These are the people that are your family. We matter. Crib to death. We matter. Hair color, clothes, skin color, women or men, undecided. We matter. All in all, it's love. Hello, my name is Craig Martinez, and my lovely wife, Deborah, and my daughter, Sarita, from a different marriage before. Zoey Rose Martinez was Deb and my only child. That's tough. Zoey was our transgender daughter. And how did this all start? Well, we all started somewhere. Ours started out as Zachary Farrington Martinez, little cute little guy. Always made me laugh. was his name, until he was 16 years old. Now he was one of the best baseball players on the teams he played on. 4 times he was voted best player. He was in Taekwondo. They called him the Bull. He took down his opponents just fast. It was incredible. But at 16 years old, he said to his mother and me, he goes, quote, "I've been your son for the last 16 years. I'll be your daughter for the next 16 years. To me, I'm a guy, 60 years old. I kind of come in a different generation than maybe a lot of younger people, right? All I thought was, what the holy? Where did it go wrong? Like it was something we caused. What does this mean? I had no idea. Transgender was not even in our vocabulary for Deb and I. Deb started looking online, and we weren't that good at the computer, but she started looking online and explained to me what was going on. Time went by, and we were trying to grasp this concept. Time to change his name to her name at a court down in Auburn, to Zoey Rose Martinez. And the judge made Zoey turn to us and thank us both, because she, the judge, maybe, just maybe, would see one parent, but 2 parents. She even asked, "Who are you?" Like it was like this, she just unheard of. And told Zoey to thank us because of how rare it was to have 1 parent, but 2, they're backing her. And she didn't at first, only after the judge asked if we both supported her. But it was really nice. It was a good day. It was our turning of the page too. Boy or girl, this was our baby. We loved her. But for me, Zoey used more hairspray than my wife did. After a while, the only reason I wished she'd stay a boy was because it saved me a lot more money. I'll tell you, you gals are expensive. I guess Deb and me, our transition really started was when Deb got Zoey a surprise. I was in the living room just then. She told me she was going in there to give her a surprise. Her first bra, and Zoey cried. Cried because she was now knew her mom accepted her for this transition. I just thought, this kid sure cries a lot. And Deb explained what happened. My thought was, no dude would cry over a bra. This must be a chick. Okay, coming out. Zoey was a confident in who she was. She had everyone to come to an Azteca Mexican restaurant up in Dorian. The whole family to come out and stood up and told everyone. I was a father, looked at each face just to see where they're coming from. They're going to accept this because we didn't know. You know, my dad was like 85 years old, transgender. Maybe there's something new on the dinner plate. I don't know. So so the reactions didn't matter. So I was just proud of her, and I knew who she was now. The loss. The loss of Zoey to a brutal murder. 6 shots. Bang, 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 bang. This is what goes through our heads now. The words from my wife's, the day they found her in that alley, she's gone. It kills me. I heard a Hispanic singer named Renee Raketty say once, life after death isn't the question. It's the life before death. So how are you going to do it? How are you going to live? That was pretty good. For our daughter Zoey, those questions won't be answered. Our love has been murdered. Our rainbow, the pot is gone. Who was Zoey? My little lawyer. She had to be right. She used past disputes, conversations against me. to make her win this discussion. She was smart. Yes, Zoey was smarter than me, but not wiser. To her everyday life and what could happen to people in situations over money, and that's why we're here tonight. Zoey was, I believe, the 38th to the 42nd murder or less, our loss of a transgender this year, and that was on September 1st. What is the count now? We found out it's not good. Yes, our family is under attack. I tried to tell Zoey many stories to relate to things she was going through, but at 20, you a lot of times don't know death. I do. In many situations, I've been in and have made the right decisions to get out of it. On this occasion, Zoey did, and it cost her and our lives. It's not just Zoey like you out there. Let this be Zoey's story to you. Don't do business alone. Don't. Keep it public. Let your friends be seen with you coming to them. If you have to talk alone, your friends can sit at a table nearby. No excuses. You don't have a friend? Call your mom. It's just somebody else being there. You're not going to be likely to take you out. No excuses. Nothing is worth your life. You don't just die, your family dies. We're family. Look next to you. Every one of us. When you go, it takes part of our whole foundation out. We love you all. Everyone. We're your family. Call somebody. Have somebody come with you. Look around here. Stick together or we die. What? Stick together or we die. What? Stick together or we die. That's the bottom line. 2 minutes or less. That was my daughter made a mistake on. 2 minutes. Why? Because Zoey didn't stick together, and now you will never meet a very caring person. And we love Zoey. No, it's well. But everyone here in this family will only know as number 38 in 2021. Thank you. But I'd like to share one last thing, a poem I wrote for Zoey, my feelings after her murder. To Zoey, life goes on, don't it? But not how you expect it or would like it. And how you dreamed it, like you would have shared it. Looking back does not change it. Family can't help you calm the agony of the loss of it. Sleep only fakes the reality of it. Dreaming of the loss just makes you hear and see it. Crying, sweating, hoping, imagining. Life, love, God. Pain, forgetting, remembering the future. Morning comes, solitude is your only light of it. My wife and I will never see the justice in it. Why, how come, could I? Just words of it. Life goes on, but does it? Bedtime just means a new start of it. One day we'll live with it. Life goes on, don't it? To our lovely child, Zoey Martinez, you are the one of the reasons life was worth it. What? Stick together or die alone. Take somebody with you. Don't go alone. Thank you. And this is Caitlin, one of my daughter's best friends. She grew up with us since like 5, so I think they know each other pretty good.
This is going to be very hard for me. After the loss of Zoey Rose, I didn't know what to say. She had been my most loyal friend for 15 years. I don't think anybody my age can say that. At least not anybody that I've met. So today I'm just going to tell you the story about kind of my experience with Zoey and my version of how I watched her grow. So, I don't really know how to start this or really what to say. I honestly pulled this together very last minute, so I wasn't able to put this speech together how neatly or too thought out. So I'm just going to give you a small glimpse into my experience of what getting to know Zoey was like. I was 6 years old when I first met Zoey. Only she wasn't Zoey, she was Zach. I had just moved into town with my mom and met him on one of the last few weeks of first grade. His smile drew me in, and even though I was 6, I knew that he was someone who wasn't going to leave my side. Fast forward a few years when I turned 12. It was the year that I underwent 3 different surgeries that resulted in complete hearing loss in my left ear. Zach was always there. He always helped me out or supported me when I was in the hospital and kept me company while I was home from school for a couple of weeks after my surgeries. I remember after my full recovery telling Zach, "Thank you for being my friend." And his exact words for me were, "You're my best friend. Well, actually, really, you're my sister. I will always be here for you because I know you would do the same for me." Those words stayed with me for a very, very long time. Another fast forward to when we hit 14. That was the year I remember Zach finally telling me he was gay. He was terrified to tell me, but when he said those words to me, all I could do was hug him. "Thank you for trusting me, and I love you with all the same." And me and Mom pretty much knew it already. I told him, and I laughed as I continued to tell him how he knew. A little story and background behind that is when me and Zach were young, I had these things called Polly Pockets, which I think a lot of you know what those are. And I had a plethora of Polly Pockets, Barbies, anything like that. And one day we were at my house, he was spending the night that night, and we were playing in my room, and all of a sudden I wanted to go outside because it was raining and I loved the outdoors. I wanted to always play outdoors, especially with a very large yard that we had. But instead, I asked Zach if he wanted to go, and he said, "No, I'll stay here and play with your toys. You can go outside and do the boy stuff." I tried to beg him to come outside with me. It didn't work. We ended up playing Polly Pockets for the rest of the day. And from then on, it was never really outside. It was more playing with the Barbies or Polly Pockets or video games. So, a year later, at age 15, Zoey came to me and I knew she had another important thing to tell me. I kind of already knew what he was going to say because this was the first day I remember him wearing girls' clothes. This was the first or last day I would ever be seen, or I had ever seen Zach. And the first day I had met Z or Zoey. Over that next year, I watched Zach turn into who we called Z. This was the slow transition from Zach to Zoey fully coming to life. I, at this point, was already calling her Zoey because for so long over Xbox voice chats, she would have me insist me call her Zoey instead of Zach. So the name transition wasn't really hard for me like it was for some others. I watched Z slowly accumulate women's clothes and actually aided in helping her find a style that she liked most, making sure she felt as beautiful and comfortable as possible until finally her 16th birthday. On June 5th or 6th, I can't really remember, she announced to her whole family and I that from that day forward, she was Zoey, and anyone who disapproved would no longer have contact with her or her family. Finally, my butterfly, which is what I used to call her, emerged from her cocoon. I had never been more proud of her. A few months later, I got to attend her name change at the courthouse. During the process of trying to make a full name for Zoey, Debbie and Zoey looked to me and asked me about what I thought would be good for her. I thought for a really long moment on this one before I said anything aloud. Zoey Rose Martinez. To me, it felt like Zoey wouldn't have thought it was, to me, it felt like Zoey would have thought it was too basic. But when I said it aloud, she immediately wrote down the name on her name change form, and then hugged me. I will never forget that moment. Will forever be honored in helping choose her name for her. Over the next 4 years, up until her death, we went through a lot of ups and downs. She had lost herself for a while. She felt she didn't belong in this world after having what she thought were her friends stab her in the back multiple times. I had also lost my four-year-old nephew during this time. When the darkest points fell upon us, all her and I could do was be there for each other. Since then, we grew strong as sisters. Our bond grew, and I thought it was going to grow more and more until we grew and had grandchildren. Unfortunately, as we are here today, that dream of mine did not come true. It has only been 2 months and 19 days since she was murdered. And I think I can speak for anyone who has gone through this before. This is the worst kind of loss you as a human could ever feel. And I personally wish the pain of this loss was already gone. On the other hand, if we didn't feel this pain and loss, we wouldn't be human. But we are, and we feel this grief, this pain, because we truly lost someone we cared about. I lost my sister. I lost my sister, my most loyal, kind, courageous best friend, to someone who they thought could play God. And no matter how much I wish I could turn back time and bring her back, I can't. Which is why I am standing here today. Because she may not be here to tell her own story, but I will forever stand here and tell her story myself alongside her family. Zoey was incredibly loved and accepted by so many people. She always wanted to make friends with complete strangers and was always upfront with you. She never sugarcoated anything, mostly because she sucked at sugarcoating things. She was also a terrible liar. At least to me, she was. I always knew when she had a lie or when she knew I was right about something, she would always roll her eyes. It was her signature move. That was, honest to God, her signature move. But most of all, she was an amazing friend and family member. I wish she could have experienced life more. She was 2 weeks away from completing her transition before she passed. 2 weeks away from finally becoming the woman she felt she needed to be. Wherever she is now, though, she is finally the woman she wants to be. She's watching over not only me, but her other close friends, and especially her family. Not only that, especially her mom. Zoey, we miss you, and we stand here to honor you and anyone else who has been through the same thing. To anybody else who has experienced loss like this, or to anybody else who feels this same exact pain, or has been through something similar, I am with you. I will forever be an ally to the LGBTQI community, and I myself am actually a part of that community. And Zoey was the one who inspired me to come out as bisexual and become the person I am today. And if it wasn't for her, I don't think I'd be standing here talking to you about her story. So, thank you.
All right, let's all take a breath. All right, thank you so much, Craig and Caitlin. It has been an honor to get to know your family these past couple months. I wish it were under better circumstances, and I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you so much for all of our speakers tonight and taking your time out to be here. We are honored to have heard your stories and for you have been here and speak with us tonight. All right. Now, it is an honor for me to introduce my friend and voting DAPS member, Dana Shields, who uses she, her pronouns, to tell you more about the steps that the City of Tacoma, Mayor Woodards and Councilmember Walker, who was here tonight but couldn't stay, unfortunately, took this week for our community and to help spread awareness. So here's Dana Shields.
Hi, I'd like to first start off with, it's O Shields.
See,
Oh,
well,
apostrophe.
you know, we're not really friends, I just.
Oh, please.
I
I mean, thanks, but, you know.
was trying.
I know you were. That's why my Kleenex is in my pocket. As stated this year, Washington State lost 2 of our own. Zoey Martinez and Ricky Automuro. We decided to ask our cities to honor these lives with us, so we reached out to several mayors and city centers. We took this opportunity to spread awareness and give these cities and communities a chance to take action, to do something more than raise a flag during Pride Month, but to mourn with us, advocate for us, and help educate their communities. This year, Mayor Woodards and the City of Tacoma took up that challenge by proclaiming today the first annual Transgender Day of Remembrance in Tacoma and raising the trans flag to half-mast on the municipal building and public utilities building yesterday. Our flag will fly until Monday morning. Here's some footage from those events.
Moving on to proclamations, recognitions, presentations, and announcements, I would like to invite Oliver Webb, Board Chair, Fran Rourke, voting member, and Sky Locke, Secretary from the Diversity Alliance of Louisiana, to appear on the screen as I have the honor of reading this proclamation. Whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance was founded by a small recognitions, presentations, and announcements, I would like to invite Oliver Webb, Board Chair, Fran Rourke, voting member, and Sky Locke, Secretary of the Diversity Alliance of the Trans on screen as I have and whereas the honor of solidarity with over 200 cities. Whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance was founded by a small group in 1999 to memorialize the still unsolved murder of Black transgender women, Rita Hester in Allston, Massachusetts. And whereas Tacoma joins in solidarity with over 200 cities in 21 countries across the world who observe Transgender Day of Remembrance. And whereas Transgender Day of Remembrance is a day in which the trans and gender diverse communities mourns and celebrates the lives of those lost each year at the hands of violence. And whereas this day is a reminder of the shared responsibility our community has to our trans and gender diverse friends, family, and neighbors to continue to support them, help educate the public, fight for change, and eliminate hate-filled violence. And whereas every year the number of trans and gender diverse lives lost grows, however, these numbers do not accurately reflect the enormity of the toll of violence, as individuals are often identified in the media by names they no longer use, resulting in misidentification if they are reported at all. And whereas the trans and gender diverse community is ravaged by violence year after year, fueled by the legally sanctioned removal of basic human rights and protections and inaccurate information that allows transphobia and hatred to take root at all levels of society. And whereas the lives mourned and celebrated are more than just names on a list, they are members of our community and loved ones taken before their time. And today and every day, we honor those lives and the lives of those still with us. Now, therefore, I, Victoria R. Woodards, Mayor of the City of Tacoma, on behalf of the City Council, do hereby proclaim Saturday, November 20th, 2020, as Transgender Day of Remembrance in the City of Tacoma, and invite all members of the community to join us in observing this day and working together to improve safety for our trans and gender diverse neighbors by promoting acceptance and understanding. Now, as I mentioned in the proclamation, Transgender Day of Remembrance was started in 1998 after the brutal death of Rita Hester. Rita's name with them, but recognizing their challenges and hardships, such as those who we are acknowledging today. That is why Tacoma, the reading of this proclamation is historic, although a long overdue first. It is a recognition of our continued commitment to the larger work of promoting understanding and acceptance for our transgender and gender diverse friends, family, and neighbors. I personally want to thank the Diversity Alliance of Puget Sound for being here this evening and for being our partners in a flag raising commemorating this important day. Everyone is invited to the flag raising of the transgender flag to half mast at 11 a.m. on Friday, November 19th at Ben Gilbert Park, adjacent to the Tacoma Municipal Building. I want to thank Councilmember Walker for representing the council and I at this event, which is happening for the first time in Tacoma's history. The flag will remain at half-mast over the weekend for all who wish to spend a moment honoring those people who we lost over this last year and in the past. Looking ahead, city employees can also mark their calendars and join the Queer Collective Affinity Group on March 31st, 2022 to honor Transgender Day of Visibility, where we celebrate the joys and triumphs of our transgender and gender diverse community. I'd now like to take this opportunity to call on Oliver to say a few words. Oliver?
Thank you, Mayor Woodards. I almost brought myself together before I started.
That's all right.
First, thank you so much. Our organization has served the Tacoma community for nearly 18 years. This past year, we branched out to the entire state, but are still centered in Tacoma, Washington, out of the Rainbow Center. So this means a lot to us to partner with you for this week and this month and for this day specifically. First, we want to tell everyone about an event that we have this Saturday. So we are we're hosting Trans Day of Remembrance at the Washington State History Museum from 6 to 8 p.m. We are actually doing a hybrid event between TDOR Tacoma and TDOR Seattle. So the Seattle event will be at the University Universalist Church, also at the same time, and we will live stream between the two and live stream our events separately as well. But if you're in the Tacoma area, we will be at the History Museum, which is an amazing spot and a beautiful building in our amazing city. So please, if you're available or in the area and it's accessible for you, please join us there. Or if you're anywhere in Washington State, we have several other areas to mourn or live streams. So wherever you are or wherever is accessible to you, please find an event near you. Other than that, we want to thank the City of Tacoma and Mayor Woodards for acknowledging such an important day in our community, which so often gets overlooked. This year is now officially the most deadly year for trans and gender diverse individuals in history. There is sadly no way to tell how many we've lost to violence, as Mayor Woodards explained, due to the lack of reporting, both misgendering in the media and oftentimes from the family itself. Our combined lists between ourselves and Seattle, myself and another board member keep close tabs on these lists throughout the year, and then right before TDOR against each other. So with US and US territories, our lists come out to 56. List, which has some specifications for what they do for the tally. So we're at 56 with the list that we will memorialize this weekend. Last year, our list came out to 55. So we will still beat that number, which is horrifying. Those, like you said, are more than just names on a list. Those are people's children. They are siblings, they are our friends and family, and they are our community members. This year, the Pacific Northwest lost 5 members. And in Washington State, we lost 2 Latinx trans women, 1 out of Maple Valley and 1 out of Centralia. And so this came very close to home. Washington State has lost at least 1 person consecutively the last 3 years. Oftentimes we think about how safe we are in the Pacific Northwest, and comparatively we are much safer, but we still see this violence. We still see our community ravaged by this hate and these murders, and we need to do better. We need to spread this awareness. And we need to understand that it happens here too. So we thank you so much for spreading this awareness, for making this day an official day, for letting the community know, and for raising this flag, which is something that isn't done. We see that flag during June and people understand what that means, but to raise this flag for us on Friday, to make this day an official day, means something. And it will get people talking. It will help us know that Tacoma stands by us. And it will hopefully help educate others as we move forward. And it will help people feel safe in this city. So we thank you for partnering with us in this and continuing to do that work. So thank you for honoring those that we've lost today and every day.
Thank you so much, Oliver, and thank you to you and Sky and Fran for being here with us this evening. We truly appreciate your leadership and for bringing this to our attention. And we are honored to do this here in Tacoma, Washington. Can you all please join me in a round of virtual applause?
so much to us. And I've lost my place. That was basically just a slideshow of me crying. All of those pictures, the news got all of it. They have like me and Astro hugging, all sorts of things. I'm a crier. Everyone on my board knows I'm a crier, so it's like a drop of a hat. I'm like, today's agenda. All right, so let's see. Again, thank you so much for being here. It means so much. Now it is my honor to introduce to you my other half on the board, on the DAPS executive board. So Board Secretary Sky Locke, who uses she, her pronouns, and she is going to finish up the show with us. I believe we're about to head outside. So Sky Locke.
We're now going to head outside to the atrium for a reading of the names for the Candlelight Vigil. Please make sure to take a candle on your way out, and a flame will be passed around once everyone is outside.
Are we gonna do,
What's that?
are we done?
Yeah, I could go out. I mean, like, I could try
Yeah,
joining StreamYard on my phone.
yeah.
Should we do it?
You want to be the one to be the videographer?
Either way. Do you want to do it?
Oh, I guess. Let me see if I can do it.
More than just me. I go to read last night.
While you're doing that, I will do the same thing.
Let me open the laptop.
Think I'm joining the right one?
Let's see what to do. Let's see.
Nope. had it.
Which way to the reading? Is it just out here? Oh, perfect. Sure. Thank you.
Personal connections to families and friends of those lost, and many causes that actively trans violence and death. These numbers are likely not up to due to underreporting, misinformation, misgendered information, media, even by their own communities. 2021, reporting numbers are around 500 worldwide. However, these numbers do not account for the systemic abuses and social stigma that perpetuate hate and put trans and gender diverse individuals in danger. Trans Day of Remembrance was created to celebrate the lives of those who have suffered violent death as a result of transphobia. Each year we must face the difficult decision of new edits for this list. And this list does not include suicide. Suicides are consistently underreported, and therefore it is impossible to include every name. Additionally, suicide is complex causes. Trans and queer identified individuals face systemic barriers to mental health treatment alongside an increased risk of mental health challenges. This list does not include those who have died from COVID or medical malpractice. This issue is twofold. Transgender individuals often face barriers to health care and often turn illegal and untested treatment. The pandemic has further complicated this issue. There are barriers for transgender individuals in direct relation to COVID-19. However, these numbers are nearly impossible to pin down. As a result, deaths from medical complications have not been included. Tonight, we will be reading the names of those who have died violent deaths in the U.S. I encourage our attendees to read the full list of Trans Lives Matter, while remembering that not every nation reports on the violence experienced by trans and gender diverse individuals. While some nations, such as Brazil and the Philippines, do an excellent job of reporting, we have no numbers out of any African nation, from China, from Russia, and that is simply a lack of reporting. As the numbers in the U.S. go up, it is important to consider how improved reporting gives us better insight into this epidemic. We encourage you to participate in the work these groups are doing and say as many of these names as you can, while recognizing the work that needs to be done on both global and local level. Please consider donating your most valuable resources, your time, and your money to any of the worthy organizations we are partnered with. So now within the reading of the meeting, we want to warn you that we will be discussing how each one of them passed away. Well, each one of them were murdered. So begin with that. Skylar P., age 20, November 4th, 2020, Liberty City, Lisa Armstrong, age 39, November 12th, 2020, Lithonia, Georgia. Peggy was found dead with a gunshot wound in a hotel room. Police do not have clearly computed that name. Her death was not reported until several weeks later. Aisha Renee Raketty, age 22, November 20th, 2020, Houston, Texas. Aisha was found in the street with multiple gunshot wounds on Friday, 28 November 2020. Police suspect she was killed elsewhere and her body dumped. Kimberly Suzanne Fiala, age 55, November 22nd, 2020, San Jose, California. Kimberly was one of 5 people stabbed in an attack at a shelter when she volunteered. Jay Nisha Smith, JJ, age 30, November 23rd, 2020, Richmond, Virginia. Jay Nisha was found by police in a crashed vehicle. She had a gunshot wound and died at the scene. Courtney Ashay P, age 25, December 25th, 2020, Chicago, Illinois. Courtney was found unresponsive on the side of the street after being shot on Christmas Day. She died at the scene. Alexandria Winchester, age 24, December 26th, 2020, the Bronx, New York. Alexandria was shot dead on Boxing Day. 3 days later, an arrest was made in connection with her murder, but a motive has not been released. Bonnier Black, Bonnie, age 18, December 31st, 2020, Atlanta, Georgia. Bonnie was found lying under a blanket on the 3rd floor of a parking garage. Atlanta police said there were no signs of foul play, but witnesses claimed she was killed during an argument.
Brianna Hamilton, Alexander, age 28, January 6, 2021, Chicago, Illinois. Brianna was one of 2 people shot by gunmen in the vehicle. Died on the scene. Samuel Edmund Damian Valentine, age unknown, January 9, 2021. Emilio Alto, Puerto Rico. Samuel's body was discovered by a motorist with multiple gunshot wounds. Natasha Kiana, January 12, 2021, Detroit, Michigan. Natasha's body was found inside her car on the passenger side. She had last been seen alive in a motel on December 29th. No cause of death has been released. Bianca Banks Muffet, age unknown, January 17, 2021, Atlanta, Georgia. Bianca Muffin Banks was found murdered in her apartment. Details surrounding the death and murder, but friends say that her life was taken by a man in her home, who ultimately took his own life. Dominique Jackson, age 30, January 25th, 2021, Jackson, Mississippi. Dominique was found suffering from a gunshot wound after her vehicle crashed into a utility pole. She died at the scene. Vicky Vance, age 21, 28 January 2021, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Vicky was shot by her boyfriend, who has been charged with her murder. Alexis Braxton, Icon Braxton, age 45, February 4th, 2021, Miami, Florida. Alexis' body was found in an apartment building on the night of February 4th, Thursday. Miami police are investigating her death as a homicide. China Carlo, age 24, February 18, 2021, New Wellington, Pennsylvania. China died in hospitalized being attacked in the backyard of a residential building. According to police, they responded to a call at a home where they found the suspect beating a woman with a blunt instrument, who they asked to stop twice before opening fire. Luscious, age 26, April 8th, 2021, Springfield, Missouri. Dominique's body was found in his apartment after he had arranged to leave a man via a site who has been charged with the murder. Remy Fennell, age 28, April 2021, Charlotte, North Carolina. Remy was found shot dead in his home last week after David and another assaulted city. Police in Charlotte, North Carolina, issued a critical warning, noting that the death was peaceably. Sierra Banks, age 24, April 21st, 2021, Chicago, Illinois. Sierra was shot in her vehicle. She was pronounced dead at the scene. Natalia Cruz Lopez, age 24, April 23rd, 2021, San Jose, California. Natalia was murdered. Her boyfriend was taken into police custody. Iris Santos, age 22, April 23rd, 2021, Houston, Texas. Iris was shot while sitting outside a restaurant in her car. She died in the hospital. Terry Washington Solo, age 49, May 1st, 2021, Clearwater, Florida. Terry was found dead at the back of an apartment building. Local reports, many of which misgendered her and used a different spelling of her first name, did not offer other details about her death. Steve Carter, age 35, May 2nd, 2021, York, South Carolina. He was found in an unresponsive position after a police officer was called to his home to conduct a well-being check. She had been shot. Yahira Rialto Valenciano, age 42, May 2nd, 2021, Boston, Massachusetts. Sahara Rialto was murdered after home in Dorchester by the husband of a friend who also stabbed his wife and her dog. This might be very good. Age 41, May 3rd, 2021, York, Pennsylvania. Whispering Wind Spirit was shot during a purchase robbery at their home. Sophie Gasquet, age 36, May 4th, 2021, Brookhaven, Georgia. Sophie was found unresponsive in her call by police officers while responding to a call that a person had been shot. Danny Simpson, or Prince Danny, age 31, May 4th, 2021, Baltimore, Maryland. Danny was found in an unresponsive condition by police after being shot. Danny, who also went by Prince Daniel, was in early stages of transition. Prince's family believes she was shot by someone who was in a relationship with him. Serenity Hollis, age 24, May 8th, 2021, Albany, Georgia. Serenity was shot while walking along the street. Local police repeatedly detonated and suspected her. However, the DA said every indication pointed to her murder. Oliver Taylor, Ollie, age 17, May 19th, 2021, Gervais, Oregon. Oliver died in a hospital a week after being kidnapped and shot by an acquaintance. Haven A. Bailey, age 25, May 24th, 2021, Villa Park, Illinois. Haven was fatally shot by a police officer in Villa Park, Illinois. Officers said they encountered a person walking directly toward them while armed with what they believed was a handgun. Police said Bailey was told to drop the gun several times. An officer then shot the person 4 times when he refused. Poe Black, Oliver Jackson, Ethan, Tommy, age 21, May 26, 2021, Slab City, California. Poe was reportedly stabbed and his body dumped in a canal. Also known by the names Oliver Jackson, Ethan, or Tommy by his family, was transgender two-spirit relative. Casey Wilson, age unknown, May 30th, 2021, Washington, D.C. Casey was reportedly murdered in Southeast Washington, D.C. No other details are known. Sierra Marie Lewis, age 36, June 12th, 2021, Cleveland, Ohio. Sierra Marie died in a hospital from a gunshot wound on 12th of June. Dead naming prevented the community from becoming aware of the murder until early August. Nova Rue Watson, E.J. Boykin, age 23, June 14th, 2021, Lynchburg, Virginia. Nova died from his injuries after being found by police in a parking lot suffering from gunshot wounds. Kaya Ashton, age 20, July 17, 2021, Suitland, Maryland. Kaya was shot inside her home. The man she was in a relationship with subsequently arrested. Shay Vanderpump, age 23, July 30th, 2021, Trenton, New Jersey. Shay was shot in the face while trying to defend someone else. Her killer was arrested the following day. Coco Chanel Wortham, age 44, August 7th, 2021, Dallas, Texas. Coco was found with gunshot wounds after police responded to reports of a shooting in a homeless encampment. Sue Johnson, Titanizer Mua, age 25, August 23rd, 2021, Shreveport, Louisiana. Sue was a makeup artist who also went by the name of Titanizer Mua. She was found shot dead in a car parked behind a home in a suburban neighborhood. Zoella Rose Martinez, Zoey, age 20, September 1st, 2021, Seattle, Washington. Zoey's body was found in an alley in the Finney Ridge neighborhood after being kidnapped in Maple Valley. A suspect is in custody, and the cause of death has not been released. Oh, sorry, I changed it. The cause of death, she was shot 5 times. 6 times. Was it fully 6? She was shot 6 times. 6 times. The final bullet went straight through her body. Desani Monet Smith, age 23, September 6, 2021, Dalton, Illinois. Desani was found in a hotel room by police responding to reports of a shooting. She was pronounced dead in the hospital an hour later. Brianna Ulmer, Brianna Hamilton, age 25, September 17, 2021, Chicago, Illinois. Brianna was shot in the head in the early hours on Friday, September 17th, and died in a hospital. Pierre Laprie Cartier, age 21, September 30th, 2021, Arlington, Texas. Pierre was found in her car suffering from a gunshot wound. She died in the hospital. Royal Poetical Stars, age 26, October 2nd, 2021, Miami Gardens, Florida. Poetical was shot inside her vehicle late on the morning of Saturday, the 2nd of October. As a result of police misgendering her murder, did not come to light until nearly 2 weeks later. Mel Robert Groves, age 25, October 11th, 2021, Jackson, Mississippi. Mel died in a hospital soon after driving himself there while suffering from multiple gunshots. Kiva Scatter, age 34, October 15th, 2021, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Kiva's body was found in a field with a gunshot. Jesse Hart, age 42, October 17th, 2021, Banks, Oregon. Jesse's body was found in the woods outside the town of Banks, 25 miles west of Portland. Detectives suspect
foul play and believes she died at least 2 weeks early. Joe Akers, age 26, October 25th, 2021, Boise, Idaho. Joe was in the early stages of her transition. She died after confronting a gunman who attacked the shopping mall where she worked as a security guard, saving multiple lives in the process. Ricky Otomuro, Drew Scarlett, age 29, October 31st, 2021, Centralia, Washington. Ricky was shot at least 5 times by her boyfriend. Her body was found on their sofa next to their 6-year-old son, who survived the attack. Jenny De Leon, age 25, November 2nd, 2025, Tampa, Florida. Jenny's body was discovered on Tuesday, November 2nd. Police are actively investigating her death. Markeisha Lawrence, age 28, November 4th, 2021, Greenville, South Carolina. Lawrence was found dead in her home by her family member. It seems she had been in an altercation with 1 or more people, according to the coroner's office. The office declared Lawrence's death a homicide. While we have 56 names, we know there are many more. As we've explained several times tonight, these names get misgendered, misreported, or we never find them out. I apologize that we had to compete with noise tonight. You can find the full list of these names and their stories on the Diversity Alliance of the Puget Sound website, on Visibility.org, on Seattle Transvisibility.org's website, as well as Trans Lives Matters, the full World List website. We thank you so much for being here tonight and holding space. We ask that we take a moment of silence for all the names listed and all the names forgotten. Thank you so much. Going to a wonderful evening. If you left anything aside, please feel free to retrieve it.